So, Matt, we're talking about guys that could possibly be on the chopping block, and we've got a wily vet taking on a young up-and-comer to a point. You got Francisco Trinaldo at 23-6 taking on Alexander the Great Hernandez at 10-2. And, Matt, listen, he had an 8-fight win streak going on. Hernandez did, but it got snapped by Donald Cowboy Cerrone. It was a second-round TKO in that one. A little bit of bad blood in there, more or less made up, but this is his return to the cage. That fight was on the first ESPN Plus card in January for Francisco Trinaldo. He's 40 years old in this division, which is almost unheard of at 155. Hopefully he can make the weight. We're making this video on Tuesday night.
I'll make the weight. You
look at Trinaldo, he had a 7-fight win streak from 2014 to 16, capped out with a win over Paul Felder, and it was an ugly left that popped that eyebrow of Felder. Fight was over. And since then, hasn't looked great. Alexander Hernandez, minus 175 favorite. Francisco Trinaldo, a plus 145. Matt, listen, I think we've got this picked the same way, but it's tough because Trinaldo's been able to stick in there for a while. If Hernandez is going to be able to get it done, how does he have to do it against such a crafty guy in Trinaldo?
So I'm not totally sold on Hernandez personally, just due to the fact that his opponents have been there's such a discrepancy between even their skill gap. I mean, he went from fighting Olivier Mercier to fighting Cowboy Cerrone. There's just such a big gap in between those that you don't really have a great litmus test for how good he really is. I just know he's a little bit better than OAM, and he's not as good as Cowboy. That's about 55 people in the UFC. So I'm not completely sold on him. I do think he's going to get the win. I feel like second round stoppage is going to be appropriate. It's just like you said, Trinaldo, even though he lost to Kevin Lee, he did drop him with a head kick. So he's got a lot of good veteran tools, but he hasn't looked great as of late. So I'm going to say Hernandez, second round TKO.
And I think Hernandez is a good pick as well as Matt cools down from talking so quick. Matt, let's continue on with the 2-minute breakdowns. If you're following along on YouTube, be sure to click that button below you. Follow along with our next fight on the card. We've got James Vick, Dan Hooker. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's get into it.